Looking for a fresh start, new energy and the motivation to stay consistent? Well, it's all bundled in the exciting new days ahead as we welcome the magnificent March. Welcome to the month's first installment of Jamaica Magazine. We're so glad to have you joining us. Coming up in the show today, we look at the urgent need to protect our water resources and how to control one tasty habit. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Yes, walk right over there and drop it in the bin. Reuse that wastewater from your kitchen for the garden. Get your hands dirty and plant a tree. Farmers, hold off on the pesticides, especially near our rivers. Do your part to protect our watersheds so we can preserve the source of our drinking water. Every act to protect our watersheds counts. Start now.
Good day, I'm Theodore Henry, and this is your JIS News for Wednesday, March 1, 2023. A crucial historic step forward for the nation's public health has been made with the official adoption of an electronic health records EHR system. On Tuesday, the Ministry of Health signed an agreement to implement the system with stakeholders, including the European Union, the Bank of Jamaica, and the hospitals and health centers participating in the program. The electronic health records EHR system is being implemented as part of the $5 million health system strengthening project. Portfolio Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says the system will change the way public hospitals administer care, operating under the tenet of one patient, one record. It will see the conversion of patient records to a paperless format and the uploading and exchange of records across healthcare providers.
In a very short phrase, it improves by reducing transaction time, transaction cost, and improve the quality of service provision for the patient in our public health institution. And we have already started by putting in the internet connectivity, the devices to access the data, and combine will provide for us the kind of electronic technology-based transformation that we are celebrating today.
The 18-month program to introduce electronic health records in Jamaica will roll out across 13 health facilities. These include the Spanish Town, St. Anne's Bay, Maypen, and Chapelton Community Hospitals, in addition to the Maypen West and Maypen East health centers. Government has tabled a fourth supplementary estimate of expenditure for the current fiscal year, adding $10.1 billion for payments to public sector workers under the Compensation Restructuring Program. Minister of Finance and the Public Service, Dr. Nigel Clark, tabled the estimates in the House of Representatives yesterday. The fourth supplementary estimates also reflects a reduction in capital spending of $5.8 billion for projects in which the funds are unlikely to be drawn down in the next 4 weeks of the fiscal year. These two adjustments lead to a net increase of $4.3 billion for the 2022-2023 budget, pushing expenditure for this year above the $1 trillion mark. Minister Clark says the increased allocation for payments under the compensation restructuring exercise is to make provisions based on the results of continuing discussions with public sector groups.
The fourth supplementary estimates, therefore, makes provision, Madam Speaker, for the implementation across the entire public sector for the full implementation of the first year of the compensation restructuring.
Approximately 400 Jamaicans will benefit from a $30 million grant to offset the survey costs associated with registering a parcel of land with the National Land Agency, NLA. Persons will be able to access up to $75,000 each under the 3-year partnership between the VM Group and the NLA. At the contract signing on Friday, Prime Minister Andrew Holness welcomed the partnership as a step towards increasing land registration numbers in the country. He says the grant will address one of the impediments to persons formalizing land ownership.
The land surveying can be a bit costly, and it's probably the hurdle that prevents most people from going through this process. And I'm hoping that other mortgage companies will see the wisdom of partnering with the NLA and the government's program of land registration and come on board as well.
Sponsoring the surveyor costs in the land titling process is aligned with our commitment to mutuality, because this is about working collaboratively to make the wider community flourish.
Eligible applicants should not have lands exceeding 5 acres. The program will roll out in April in St. Mary, Portland, and St. Thomas, in areas where the Land Administration Management Division project is being implemented. Other areas include Nagohead in St. Catherine, as well as Tel Aviv, Southside, Rose Gardens, Rose Town, Golden Spring, Rose Hall, and Lawrence Tavern and its environs in Kingston. Government has allocated $810 million in the new fiscal year to support investment development and promotion as it seeks to further the growth of the Global Services Sector, GSS. The money will fund the Global Services Skills Project, focusing on the higher value-added segment, providing better skilled workers and increasing Jamaica's capacity to attract foreign direct investments and increased exports. Among the anticipated physical targets for the 2023-2024 fiscal year is enhanced job readiness and digital skills training for 6,000 new entrants by the Hart NSTA Trust. Phase 2 of the Train the Trainers program and implementation of a technology innovation district, as well as the 2023 apprenticeship program, are also to begin in the new fiscal year. And finally, Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce, Senator Aubin Hill, is imploring more Jamaicans to invest in the development of the country. He made the remarks while welcoming a new $2 billion residential development for which ground was broken in Kingston recently. The $2 billion Bond Chance investment is a 10-story mid-rise development that will boast 43 one- and two-bedroom apartment units with underground and surface floor parking, pool and terraces, entertainment space, gym, and a garden terrace. Minister Hill says there are plenty of opportunities across various fields of business for investments such as this.
We need more investments in Jamaica. Real estate, absolutely. It's hot and it's good and it's safe. Pension funds love it. Long income streams to pay their pensioners, and I recommend it. But we need investments, other investment. That's why I'm stressing investment, which is the second of my objective. My first objective is to grow export. But we need investments in mango, avocados, breadfruit, ackee. Those are orchard crops that the diaspora wants and people who are not in the diaspora want.
He says Jamaicans should take advantage of the opportunities to become master developers in the country's industrial and logistics parks, such as the Caymanas Economic Zone. These, he points out, offer attractive incentives such as up to 50 years tax-free property rental income.
Tax-free rental income for a long period of time. You have to negotiate. But it's more than that. If you make other income from, say, shares or selling real estate from that company, you're going to pay 12.5% tax, which is half of the corporate tax in Jamaica, but it's more. Depending on how many Jamaicans you employ, you can reduce that tax further to 7.75%.
And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
Water is precious. So we encourage everyone to practice the 4 R's of water conservation. Always remember to reduce your use of water wherever possible. Replace water wasting devices with water savings devices. Reuse water wherever possible. And wherever leaks are found, please repair them and repair them quickly.
Don't delay. Practice the 4 R's of water conservation today.
March is one of the driest months in Jamaica every year. As current drought conditions impact water supply, government is urging the public to conserve. Conservation plays a vital role in the protection of water supply from Jamaica's 26 watershed management units. Learn more about watersheds in this next feature.
Jamaica, the land of wood and water. Preserving the rich history of our island's natural bounty is centered on the core ideal of sustainability. So, with every precious drop of rainfall harvested into the beautiful canopy of the island, increasing the urgency to safeguard our water sources is everyone's responsibility. An area of land that allows for the drainage of rainwater into a common place like a pond or river is known as a watershed. Now, you may live near a river or drink the water from a bottle, but how much do you know about watersheds and their life-giving role? There are over 100 rivers making up Jamaica's watersheds. These rivers are critical resources to the ecosystem of the land, while empowering our economy. The National Environment and Planning Agency NEPA manages Jamaica's 26 watershed management units WMUs in partnership with key governmental agencies such as the Rural Agricultural Development Authority RADA, the Forestry Department, the Water Resources Authority and other partners. There is one major factor to note in the protection of watersheds, and it's the delicate balance of the communities who earn a living from these areas through agriculture.
So we try to take a bottom-up approach to watershed management. Now that will involve liaising with the communities, getting their inputs prior to going into any given watershed with any intervention. You have to do what we consider to be an assessment of the needs of the community, separate and apart from an assessment of the needs of the watershed prior to going in and doing our interventions.
This approach forms part of the integrated watershed and coastal area management model, which takes into consideration the community's views. Under the Watersheds Protection Act of 1963, watershed areas are declared and regulated to conserve the water resources, while allowing residents to gain from popular land economic activities such as farming.
You do have complementary acts that would speak to watershed management. So you have, for example, the RADA Act of 1990 that will allow for the use of extension services, which translate into watershed management as the use of sustainable land management practices with the farmers.
There are 7 other pieces of legislation that support the Major Watersheds Protection Act. Finding the balance between benefiting from the resources in watersheds and preventing its degradation is continuous work by the environmental authorities. In 2015, a $3.9 million Yalas Hope Watershed Restoration Project was launched as a joint initiative between the government and the Inter-American Development Bank (IDB. The Yalas and Hope River watershed supply 40% of the drinking water in the densely populated urban parishes of Kingston and St. Andrew.
We would have trained under that project over 5,000 farmers in sustainable land management, and then we would have also did quite a number of studies. We would have done some replanting in the area. We would have replanted over 500 hectares.
A major initiative from the Yalas Hope River Restoration Project was the use of a Payment for Ecosystem Services scheme, designed to give an incentive to farmers who rely less on the watersheds.
At the end of that project, we would have, through modeling, showed that we have seen a reduction in about 8% of sediments coming down out of that watershed, and that's a conservative estimate. It goes up to 17% when you factor in the interventions that were done by our partners in these watersheds.
NEPA also established a Yalas and Hope River Watershed Management Committee to ensure that these results continue. Jamaica's international ranking as a strong and actions-based drive of environmental protection is steadily growing. A Jamaican Path from Hills to Ocean project is the latest initiative to restore 3 major watersheds across the island in the next 5 years. The $1.05 billion Jamaican dollar project is a joint partnership between the government and the European Union, executed by the Planning Institute of Jamaica in support of NEPA and RADA.
So the rapid ecological assessment is expected to inform some of the project activities that will help with the RADA-led components in identifying some areas that will be prioritized for intervention, and those priorities will be for trainings for farmers and other techniques that would help with the overall watershed management. The Cassiton Botanical Garden is one particular location within one of the watershed management units that would benefit mostly from some of these activities.
Work will also be done on two wetland ecosystems, Winds Morass in Trelawney and the Mason River Protected Area on the border of St. Anne and Clarendon.
And those activities would help with the overall preservation and conservation of those two wetland areas to stem or kind of address some of the challenges we are currently facing with issues of encroachment or solid waste deposits, and also the general sensitization through the use of signage and public education.
The project will also flow into the protection of Jamaica's marine life.
So the assessment of seagrass, the health and distribution of seagrass beds within the Ocherius Marine Park and the Helsha Half Moon Bay area will also be assessed, so we can see if the activities implemented over the 5-year period would have helped with the health or the general health of the marine environment in these areas.
Don't waste water. Turn on your tap at half blast. Plant a tree, the more the better. Do not litter. Proper waste disposal prevents your garbage from getting into our rivers and streams. Be environmentally friendly. Get involved and help protect the earth. The work to protect our watersheds aligns with Jamaica's signatory to the Paris Agreement on Climate Change to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Equivalently, our Vision 2030 national plan also prioritizes balancing sustainable use of the environment and reducing poverty. Through climate-smart steps to better use the lands and the hills of our watersheds and reduce the degradation of our coastlines, the value of protecting Jamaica's watersheds today will pay the price for securing the future of the island.
We're diving a little deeper into our water sources, but this time it's to catch the new energy on the tasty meals that are born from the bounties of these ecosystems. In this next feature, we reel in more information on the business of fish farming in Jamaica. Take a look.
Fishing. The simple act of casting a line with a bait in the hopes of catching a nibble from a fish has been an essential aspect of human civilization since hunter-gatherer times and is one of the few food production activities that have survived from prehistory to modern day. Today, it has evolved to become yet another source of income for many, including our own fisherfolk. But how is fisheries regulated? Enter Jamaica's National Fisheries Authority (NFA), an agency under the umbrella of the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries. The NFA is entrusted with overseeing, regulating, and preserving the fisheries industry while working to improve the fishermen's fishing experiences and incomes. A critical focus area of the NFA has been aquaculture. This is the breeding, growing, and harvesting of fish, shellfish, and aquatic plants, or the act of farming in water. This means our tilapia and oyster farmers are at the heart of Jamaica's aquaculture practice. In addition to regulating the sector and providing support, the NFA has also taken on the task of educating and encouraging Jamaicans about the benefits of tilapia farming as another approach to boosting local fish production and reducing stress on reef fish.
The reef fish, that is fish caught in the reefs in and around the Jamaica's shoreline, that population is decreasing. And our fishermen will tell you that when they go out, they have to go further and further out to get a decent crop of fish to sustain themselves. Tilapia has been grown in Jamaica since the 1940s. Its fortunes have ebbed and waned with time. And so here we are now trying to promote it, to push it, to get people to not only eat it, but to get people to also produce it.
As a result, the National Fisheries Authority has begun to employ different creative approaches to increase tilapia production and consumption. The upcoming cooking competition is one of those approaches which aims to highlight the different ways tilapia can be enjoyed. While the NFA continues working to expand aquaculture, effort is also being made to revitalize reef fishing. An initiative to train fishermen for pelagic or deep-sea fishing is part of that drive. A technique in which a fish aggregation device (FAD) is strategically placed to attract pelagic fish, allowing fishermen to fish beyond reefs, is also being explored as a more cost-effective method. The creation of fish sanctuaries has also been essential to the sustainability of Ori fish. Fish sanctuaries are no-fishing zones developed to conserve the bay's breeding grounds and fish habitats while progressively increasing the fish population in the neighboring regions.
We are seeking to develop production of shrimp, production of oysters, production of sea moss, or Irish moss as we call it here in Jamaica. And so there is a huge development towards the aquaculture industry because, as I said, the sea product is declining. Aquaculture is the saving grace, if you will, of Jamaica's fisheries endeavors because it has so much potential for growth and development.
And not only will aquaculture contribute to the improvement of fish habitats and the rebuilding of stocks of threatened or endangered species, it will also assist to feed the nation today and for the foreseeable future.
We all love to season the meat down to the bone, and the taste must just be right. But are you using just a little too much of one particular popular flavoring? Let's help you to shake it right. Watch this.
Most of us are very familiar with salt. The most common is table salt. The chemical name is sodium chloride, and it's a common component of the food supply in most countries. There are several other sources of salt, including monosodium glutamate, or MSG as it's commonly known, and sodium bicarbonate, or baking soda. Salt is commonly used to flavor food and is used as a binder, stabilizer, as well as preservative. Sodium, or salt as we know it, plays an important role in the proper functioning of our body, with just about 500 milligrams needed daily to carry out normal body functions, such as water balance and nerve conduction. However, most of us are consuming much more than is needed.
Global estimates suggest that persons consume between 9 to 12 grams of salt per day, which is 1.5 to 2 times the recommended intake level.
This briny affair is one of the key factors in our non-communicable disease burden. In simple terms, our overconsumption of this nutrient is contributing to the development of several diseases.
When we look at the heart and cardiovascular system, increased salt intake is associated with high blood pressure, with ischemic heart disease, with hypertensive heart disease, as well as heart failure. For the brain, it's associated with stroke, as well as dementia. For the kidneys, with chronic kidney disease and renal stones. For the stomach, there is an association with increased risk of stomach cancer. For the bones, there's problems related to osteoporosis.
High blood pressure or hypertension affects 1 in 3 Jamaicans, and another third is pre-hypertensive. Salt consumption is also often accompanied by increased intake of calories, which increases the propensity for obesity.
Given that the entire population is at risk of NCDs, given the significant impact and the burden of NCDs, it's imperative that there is sustained action to mitigate the effects of salt consumption.
In 2021, the Ministry of Health and Wellness launched the Jamaica Salt Consumption Knowledge, Attitudes and Practice Jamaica Salt CAP Study. It was designed to provide local baseline data for strengthening strategies to eliminate overconsumption of salt within the population. The ministry is partnering with the National Non-Communicable Disease Committee, the National Health Fund, and the University of the West Indies on the study.
One important aspect of addressing the health concerns of any population is through research. This study, therefore, will help to determine the knowledge, attitude, and practices of our population as it relates to salt intake and strengthen the implementation of strategies to reduce.
This project has specific objectives. So firstly, we aim to estimate the dietary sodium consumption among Jamaicans using spot urine sodium analyses. We want to evaluate the salt content in commonly consumed packaged foods sold in supermarkets. We also want to evaluate the sodium content in commonly used consumed foods in local restaurants. Then we will conduct a national survey to get information on knowledge, attitudes, and practices regarding salt intake in Jamaica.
The World Health Organization (WHO) recommends less than 5 grams of sodium per day for adults and less than 2 grams for children under 11 years of age. 1 in 10 Jamaicans consume excess salt by adding it during cooking or at the table, as well as by frequent consumption of salty sauces or high-sodium processed foods. A significant amount of sodium also comes from ready-made meals and prepared foods, including processed meats, breakfast cereals, and snacks. It's a scenario where the entire population is at risk for NCDs. Minimizing this habit for excess salt in the diet of Jamaicans is one of several goals informing the Ministry of Health and Wellness's NCD agenda. The mission to shake the salt habit begins with the young. Lowering sodium in children's diets today can help prevent heart disease later in life, especially for those who are overweight. Limit their consumption of salty snacks. And remember, no more than 2 grams per day from all food sources for those under 11 years of age. Let's also shop and cook smart. Use less or no salt when cooking and add more flavor to your food by using fresh herbs and salt-free seasoning instead. Also, keep a watch on the foods that are high in salt and limit the consumption. Take the time to carefully read the nutrition labels on food products to determine those providing the healthier options, and be mindful of the portion size you consume. Also, seek out recipes for healthy, tasty meals that can be prepared with little or no salt.
Jamaica is a signatory to the United Nations International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, which recognizes the right of everyone to the highest standard of health. And we believe that in order to achieve this, we must address the crises of NCDs and the role that excess salt, sugars and fats play in making Jamaicans susceptible to getting a lifestyle disease.
Jamaica has committed to the World Health Organization voluntary target to reduce sodium or salt consumption by 30% by 2025. Achieving this requires buy-in from all stakeholders, including manufacturers, retailers, health professionals, and consumers.
So we have a duty to ensure that Jamaicans are aware of the harmful effects of unhealthy diets and have access to important nutritional information, which will allow them to make healthier food choices. It has to be tackled initially from the prevention perspective, and the core of that is consumer information, and then policies that encourage or nudges health-seeking behavior.
We all must do our part to break this briny affair. Shake the salt habit and stay healthy.
Yes. Cut down on the amount of salt you use in your meals, and remember to conserve on water. If you missed aspects of today's show, visit our website, jis.gov.jm, to find more content like this. We are already working on tomorrow's edition of the magazine, so don't miss it. You can also send your feedback on today's show or any of our programs via email to jamaicamagazine@jis.gov.jm. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Thank you so much for watching and pleasant viewing.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.